Hey guys, I just wanted to let you know before the interview started today that I made a rookie mistake and decided to use my AirPods as my audio source for the interview when we were recording earlier today. Unfortunately, that did create some latency issues with the recording itself, so the audio on the video is going to sound a little funky today. I'm not interrupting our guest. It's just the way the recording came off because of the issue. So I tried my best to sync it up, but I'm gonna post it anyway just because it was a really good interview. So stay till the end. I hope you guys enjoy it. Subscribe, comment, like, all the good stuff. Thanks. Guys, big guest today. This is going to be our first interview on the Scratch Golf Show. So I want to welcome our guest, Mr. Golf Lover UK. If you guys aren't familiar, I'll let him introduce himself and let him know where you can find him on the socials, on the YouTube. But thank you for the time, Mr. Golf Lover UK. So if you want to do a brief intro, and then we can get into the actual interview itself.
Well, let's go for it. And look, thank you for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it. And I love the way of what you're trying to do. You obviously love golf. And I think a love of golf and a love of what you're doing is always comes across really well. Um, and I think that we'll get into who I am in a second. I think that there's a lot of people online at the minute that have differing opinions, and that's great. But I think authenticity wins. So, I think one of the things I've had, I get a lot of people just moaning at me, but I think a
Yeah.
lot of people seem to actually understand that I actually say what I think. I knew I got it right on the weekend when some live fans were criticising me for being nice about Scotty and being
Right.
nice about Oberg. And then I had PGA Tour fans criticising me for being nice about Bryson. I'm like, I must be doing something right.
Right, exactly. No, for sure. I think I talked about it on my live show. I've chatted about it with you briefly. I'm with you. I just say it how it is. I'm trying to be my authentic self. That's why I kind of got into this similar to you. I'm a golf lover. I've played for a long time. I'm halfway decent. I'm a scratch golfer. That's why the Scratch Golf Show.
Whoa,
That's the name of the show. But yeah,
I'm not scratch.
yeah, I love the authenticity, and I'm the same way. I get it from both sides because I've said good things about Live. I'd be lying to you if I wasn't a fan to start. But I talked about it, like I said, on my live show last night. That kind of the back half of last year and even into this year, I've watched every event. The product itself has gone great so far. I think it's a good product, but I hear it from both sides. So I hear from you. I think, like you said, you're doing something right if you get criticized for saying one thing about one product and then another thing about another product. So,
Yeah, and I think, look, we'll come on to that in a minute, but I know you asked me to do an intro, so I'll do it
yeah,
real quick. So, uh, everyone knows me as Golf Lover UK or Ben, and it's really weird when I go to like pro golf events and DP World Tour and I go to live and like the players and the caddies and all that know of
yeah,
me, and that was that was one of the weirdest things ever when I went to Live
yeah,
London and like half a dozen players knew me and knew of me, and then like four or five of the caddies knew of me. And that was so
yeah,
weird. I'm like, I'm just Ben who does a podcast and like has some Lego in the
right,
background, like and just chats on Twitter. So yeah, that was really different. And I think for me, like my very quick background on it, I played a good standard of cricket here in the
yeah,
UK. Got what we call boot money for a lot of my career, getting paid to play that, and I played a really good standard. But I wasn't good enough to make it as a full pro. Wasn't good enough to make it as a bad pro. But I loved it. But I had a shoulder injury in 2014. And I wanted to find something different. I played about maybe 5, 6 rounds of golf before then,
yeah,
maybe 10 in my entire life. And so I came to golf really late. And 2014, I had the operation. I think it was 2014. But I had to find something else to do because I couldn't just stop competing. I played first team cricket in a high standard for a long
yeah,
time, and like just to have nothing to compete. I know this sounds quite fragile, but playing cricket and sport was a large part of my
yeah,
identity and a large part of what made me
yeah,
happy. And I'm very lucky. My wife's called Liz, and I got a daughter called
mhm,
Annabelle. I didn't have a daughter at that point, and I'm very lucky to have them in my life, and they're the biggest part of my identity. But I found golf, and I
yeah,
loved it. Honestly, Marco, I
right,
loved it. It just changed my
right,
life. And I adore it in every single way. But I wasn't ever going to bother with Twitter, I got into golf. And then it was when DJ won the Masters in that
yeah,
November. I'd got COVID. I was lay on the sofa and I was feeling like
Yeah.
death. I joke I had COVID before it was fashionable. So I'm lying on the sofa, feeling November 2020, feeling like death warmed up, and I just thought, well, I'm gonna go on Twitter and start a golf account just to chat about the
Right.
Masters that was going on. And I did a little bit. I maybe sent, if anyone wants to go, I think I got about 100,000 tweets. Or how many have I got? If anyone wants to go back, through and check if I'm telling the truth, they can do. I got 16,000 tweets that I've done, about 35,000 replies. So if anyone wants to go back and look, I think I did about probably 25 to 30 tweets in like a month and a half
Yeah.
period. I really wasn't doing many. And then my father-in-law passed away suddenly, just after Christmas 2020. And I actually started using the Twitter golf as like a bit of like therapy almost, and just to talk about it. And then obviously we know what happened, and then golf have developed and live developed and all the stuff that came off the back of that. And I really love the live product. And I think a lot, I've been called a shill, I've been called all these things. I don't take any money from
Right.
anybody. Like I love the product, and people can believe me. I don't really give a toss if they believe me or not. Like, but what I do care about is when I'm online about conversing politely. So when people say "f you," all this, that, and the other, or name call
Yeah.
me, I just block them, because you wouldn't talk to me in real life. You wouldn't criticize me or be rude to me in real life and expect me to stand there.
Right.
I just walk away from you. People don't converse like that in real
Right.
life, so I don't accept it on
Yeah.
Twitter. We're allowed to have different opinions. I'm happy to have different opinions. I'm happy to be told I'm wrong, but you've got to talk about it properly. The second someone puts in a personal insult,
Right.
gone. Not dealing with it. We're not 12. Grow
Yeah.
up. So now I've dealt with that. Let's chat about
Yeah.
golf.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's just, I just want to clear that air on it, because it's important. Because I saw you the other day. You went down the
Yep.
rabbit hole, and you got aggy with someone. I'm like, you're better than that.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You'll never see me do it.
I know.
I just
I'm an
don't.
emotional person. Sometimes I let.
Oh, mate, I'm 41. I'm 41. I'm half South
Yeah.
African and unhinged, like with getting passionate about
Yeah.
everything. I'm emotional, but I'm not doing
Right.
it. I'm not. If you see two pigs wrestling in the mud, you don't care which pig is correct.
Right.
You just see
Exactly.
two pigs wrestling in the mud.
Exactly.
Just walk away from it.
No, I agree. And as far as golf, yeah, let's use the transition from what you were just talking about, the 2020 Masters. Let's hear your thoughts from a viewing perspective and just your overall thoughts on the tournament this weekend. You can go down the live players, how they played,
Look,
and just go from there.
it's really interesting. Like I think look, the viewing figures just come out for the Masters, and the viewing figures down like 20%.
Yeah.
And I do my show with a guy called Jay, Pro Golf
Yep.
Critic, and like Jay, if people knew what Jay was like as a real human, Jay is one of the nicest guys going, and he's exceptionally bright.
Yeah.
But Jay bites back aggressively all the time. Like, the amount of times I can
familiar.
read a conversation. Like, mate, I can read a conversation with Jay the other night. Like, I was like, what did I say to him? Mate, you went way too hard last night. People didn't read your response. You're 100% correct, but people didn't read it. And he's like, I know. Like, but like him and I are like he is so on it. And like the point he's trying to make about Scotty Scheffler, I 100% agree with. But he sometimes makes it in like an aggressive, not an aggressive way. He's just very blunt. Jay's not aggressive. He's just blunt, and like some people don't like it. But I love him to bits. Like Jay's become one of my real good friends, and like. And I don't think Twitter sometimes helps people in the context in which they communicate. And so the point Jay's making, and I completely agree with, and this tournament this week, Scotty Scheffler is a super player. He's a star golfer, but he's not a superstar personality.
Yeah. No, I agree.
He doesn't get people to turn on the TV. It is in no way derogatory to say someone's not a superstar personality. Let's look at basketball. I did a comparison before with Westbrook and Tim Duncan, and like which is a better player. But Westbrook was box office like star. He could, and again, very different players, obviously different generations. But MJ was superstar star player. Giannis is an incredible basketball player, right? Kevin Durant, incredible basketball players, but people don't turn on their TV in droves to watch those two. but they do for Steph Curry.
Right.
And you could argue that they're better in many ways than Steph. Like, I think the point we're trying to make is that he is one of the greatest golfers in the world. He might go down with the way his career is shaping. He might go down because that win, by the way, that cements him as world number one. I think someone said he could miss 19 consecutive
Insane.
cuts and will still be number one for like 26 weeks. Like, so he's got however many weeks in number one. He's guaranteed another 26. Yeah. That's half a year because of that finish. He's got 20 points in OWGR and in second place is 11.6. Yeah. Like, he's just not moving. And that would need the second place to perform really well. So he's probably going to be world number one for 30 more weeks, minimum. He's going to go down as having one of the greatest careers going. He'd probably win another major, right? But he's not a superstar personality to get you to turn on TV. If you say to my wife, who's got a passing interest in golf, a real passing interest, name 10 of the best golfers in the world, she would be able to do Bryson, Brooks, DJ. I'm not saying that because they live. I'm saying that because their personalities and the way that their brand. So maybe not DJ, but she would actually because of Paulina.
Fair enough.
She would know.
Yeah, I was going to say Paulina might have more of a brand than DJ.
Yeah, but that's part of it, isn't it? That's part of a superstar brand. So you got Bryson, DJ, Brooks. My wife would know Rory. And then she's going to start going down to personalities that she knows rather than superstar golf, rather than the best golf ability. It's taking the phrase golf ability and stardom and taking them away. You can be a star player, which he is, but he's not a star dragger of eyes to the TV. Right. But it still doesn't detract from the fact he's the best golfer in the world by a long way. But his style of golf is different, isn't he? Like, when DJ's won, when Rory's won, when Tiger's won, when Bryson won his, less so Bryson, but when he's won on Live, certainly. And you look at those other names, right? They were downhill skiers. And they got out in front and ran away from you. Scotty's like, I'm going to score 9 to 12 under. If you want to win, make no mistakes, because I'm not. And he just played, and that's not a brand of golf that drags people in. Rory trying to hit the ball 360 and trying to overpower a course. They call it the Tiger line for a reason. Bryson at Wingfoot, Bryson at Greenbrier, DJ when he won his Masters. Like, these are people that have like overpowered courses and had that sort of like aggressive golf. That brings eyes in. So I think Scott is the best player in the world by a long way, and I mean that. We all got Scotty at 1, and then you've got a big gap to 2. Like, I'm not buying Wyndham Clark at 2. Like that, I'm not.
You know how I feel about Wyndham Clark. He has benefited from
the OWGR change with Liv. And I'm not buying that. I'm not buying him at 2. I'm not buying him at 2. Rory's not played a great deal this year. Like, I think people really don't see how little Rory's played in comparison to normal. I think someone said to me Rory's played 3 fewer events that he would have played normally. And so you got to think that Rory would be 3, 4, maybe 5 places higher in the rankings if he'd played those. So I think Rory's for second place. You can give it to Bryson, Rahm, Rory, Bryson, Rahm, Rory, maybe Brooks. Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay. You've got a lot of players in that 2 to 6 bracket, but Scotty is miles ahead of all of them.
No, I agree.
So it's not a criticism of Scotty. He's just not MJ, is he? He's just not Tiger.
No, and that's the thing. And I, from a golfer's perspective, just like from a pure love of the game, like, I appreciate Scotty because of how good he is. Not only how good he is, but how good he is everywhere. Like, yes, his putting is shaky, but I talked about it last night. Like, his short game is so underrated. Even if he doesn't ball strike it well, he gets up and down from everywhere, and he misses it in the right spot. And yeah, I agree with you. I don't think he is the star that, he doesn't do the off-brand stuff like Bryson does his YouTube channel, right? Brooks does the social media, whether it's the trolling or whatever. He builds his brand off the course. Tiger is obviously Tiger Woods. Rory. These guys are named. Scotty is good from a golfer perspective, but like you said, he's not a star. But I like him because he's just so good. But like you said, he can't carry the mantle. He can't be. Yes, he may be from a skill perspective. He may be as good as Tiger. I'm not ready to go there yet because people just don't realize how good Tiger was for such a long time. But from a brand perspective, he can't carry the mantle. He can't carry the PGA Tour the way Tiger did. And I know you've talked about this, and I talked about it on my show last night. Liv has decimated the PGA Tour from a personality perspective. The Bryson, the Brooks, the
100%.
even Hatton.
100%. They've taken the
Yeah, even
characters.
Hatton.
They've taken Poulter,
Exactly.
Westwood,
Yeah.
Sergio, Bubba. They've taken the
Yeah.
characters. I know. I know. Look, I get on really well with Poltz, and on the off chance Ian sees this, Poltz and I get on really well. We talk fairly regularly,
Yeah.
right? As I do with a number of players. Bizarre that I talk to a number of
Yeah.
players in the world now. That's
That's the
mental. Like
dream.
when I was lay on my sofa in 2020, I didn't think
Right.
I'd just have golfers as
Yeah.
friends. Like Poltz is not in where he is in his career in the same way as he was 10 years ago. Although I do believe he's hitting the ball as well. He's hitting it further, and it is going to click because the work he's
Yeah.
doing. Same for GMAC. But you've got players who are slightly towards the other end of their career. Ian said that on Full Swing. He said, "I got 2 years left,
Yeah.
3 years left," and he said that in the documentary that the Majestics did. But they're the personalities. Like, let's go down the list. Like Scotty Scheffler, great bloke, but plays his golf and goes back to his wife and his child who's driving
And the
very
dive
shortly.
bar.
He doesn't do anything. Xander doesn't really do anything. Wyndham Clark, besides moaning and
He tries
crying
to be
and
a
being a
personality,
big
but he's just annoying. Let's be honest.
yeah, I don't get it. Victor Hovland, mate, Victor Hovland. He prides himself on keeping himself to himself, not doing social
Yeah.
media and listening to heavy metal music and not leave and keeping himself
Yeah.
himself. Oberg, a new player, maybe so. We don't know. Patrick Cantlay keeps himself to himself. So
Boring.
now I'm at number 9, Max Homer, and that's the first person that puts himself
Yeah.
out there. Well, let's look at the next one. Brian Harmon keeps himself to himself. Tommy Fleetwood, outside of Rick Shields' video every now and again, and a bit of stuff for TaylorMade, we don't hear from
Right.
Tommy. You don't hear from Matt Fitzpatrick. You don't really hear from Morikawa. You hear nothing from Cameron Young. Hideki doesn't really speak good English. Tyrrell Hatton doesn't really do much. Heath Tagala, Russell Henley, Keegan Bradley, Jordan. I'm at 20. Stop me
Right.
when we're getting there. Like, I've seen more from Tyrrell Hatton since he's been on Legion 13 than I've seen from Tyrrell Hatton his entire career. Besides the thumbs up thing,
I love
he
that.
did.
That
like,
was one of my favorite segments of
if you
all
glance
time.
up your thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah, but besides that, have you seen Tyrrell do anything other than what he's done on Live? And this is the point, and this is why I think viewing figures are down. This is why I think golf's down. Yeah, there has been a split, but Liv took, as you said, Liv took the
Yeah,
personalities.
and from a view,
Like Bubba's like one of the most fun guys in the world. I spent you might see my interview with
yeah.
Bubba. Like if you've not go and see it, go and check out Golf Lovers United podcast
Subscribe.
on YouTube. Yeah, subscribe,
Gotcha.
click, all that sort of stuff. But Bubba, that interview with Bubba, he is so much fun. He's infectious, and those people just aren't on the PGA Tour
no,
now.
and I think from somebody like, I love golf. Like I grew up playing the game. I grew up watching the PGA Tour. I love PGA Tour events. From my perspective, from a viewing perspective, then the thing that I actually like, and some people may not like it, and I know you're kind of maybe in the middle, but I love the authenticity. Like, I love when Tyrrell drops an F-bomb. I love when he gets angry. I love when Rahm swears and gets angry. Like, I get angry. That's just the competitive nature of those guys, and I love how Liv, I love a good hot mic. Everyone else does, right? It makes for good viewing pleasure on Twitter. But I love when those guys are their authentic themselves, because they can't really do that on the PGA Tour, and if they do, it doesn't really get a ton of shine. And I think from a viewing perspective, from somebody who golfs on the weekends, like, I want to see that type of stuff. I want to see these guys struggle. I want to see them be themselves. I want to see the competitive nature come out. And maybe that's just my perspective. But yeah, like you said, Liv has taken a lot of the personalities, and I think that is a big contributor. And I know like you said, you've touched on that as to why the viewing numbers are down from that perspective. It's just the product it wasn't great before. The players propped it up on the PGA Tour, but now that Liv has taken a lot of the top talent, the product, you can see that it's lacking. It's stale. It's behind, because Tiger carried the product for so long, and they didn't need to improve it because they had a golden boy. They had Tiger Woods, and now they don't have it. As much as Rory has tried,
Exactly.
he can't do it. He tried, and he got so frustrated. And I want to transition into a little bit, because I know we're on a time crunch. I want to.
My appointment's moved. They just emailed me.
Okay.
I've got 15 minutes more, so you got me.
Cool. Well, then I want to transition into the Rory to Liv story. I know I talked about it on my live show last night. I credited Mr. Flushing at Golf, who I don't know if you guys know each other personally, but I know you're both over across the pond.
Yeah, I got on really well with Tom. we've played golf together a couple of
Yeah.
times. He's a nice guy. We can get on really
Yeah,
well.
I know he broke the Rom story, which I know a lot of the major publications didn't credit him or didn't, but he was like a week and a half, 2 weeks early. He came down. I don't know if it was his report or I just saw the story, but Rory to live. I talked about it, and I know you've been on this for a while, going back to I think February.
You credited flushing it when I did the post on the 3rd of January
I
2024, which I
apologize.
reposted
I
last night.
apologize. I know I saw that, but I want to talk about it. Like, can you just tell me what is, how strong is the report? What does it look like from Liv perspective? I know he doesn't get team equity, he gets league equity, which I'm curious how it's going to work if he comes over the season. So I just break it down for me.
Look, I think there's a lot of reports in there and a lot of data in there and semantics and parts that we just can't know. Now, I'll caveat everything I'm going to say with no one goes until they go and sign. I know of 7 players that agreed to go, that backed out very late, and 2 that backed out. We're talking the last 10 minutes before they're meant to be announced, right? Like that, we've had that
Yeah.
happen. We also know that Rory was very
Yep.
anti-live, and then he met with Yazir in just around Christmas time in the UK. And then Rory, having met Yazir, went on to the UK football podcast and said and apologised for all the things he said about Liv, and that he sees PIF and all this being part of the global golf, and that he shouldn't have said what he said about players leaving and all that. That's all public knowledge. But it was at that time I had a phone call from somebody and I had a conversation with somebody else, and they said to me, Rory's going to go to Liv. He's got an offer for 800 to 850 million, but he's probably not going to go until just after the Masters. And I put that out on the 3rd of January 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened the day after the Masters? What do we hear? The report that he's
Right.
going. Now, we know that Tiger spent best part of 2 days with Yazir in
Bahamas. Yep.
Bahamas. We know there have been conversations going on. So do we know 100% that Rory's going? Of course we don't. We know no one does. But we know he's had the conversations. We know there's been offers made from what everyone's been told and everyone's talking about. And it's not my exclusive information. I was just told that Rory would be going and there would be information on him going coming after the Masters. I literally
Yeah.
put that in a tweet that went out on the 3rd of January. People can check the
Famous
stamp.
picture
What do the
with
kids say?
the Cleeks picture that you put out with him and Tommy.
Yeah.
Yep.
What do the kids say? If you've got
Yeah.
receipts, go look. Like, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying the information I was given and the information I've had, like, that has pulled through into what I believe is now. If it's a coincidence, it's a coincidence. If he goes, he goes. He could easily not go. Now, will he get equity in the league? I don't know. Will he get equity in X, Y, and Z? I don't know. But let's look at the larger scheme of golf. We know that Callaway tried to deny they're up for
Yeah.
sale, but it's not up to Callaway if they're for sale because Callaway aren't owned by Callaway's board. Callaway's owned by 3 private equity firms, and those private equity firms are confirmed that they were entertaining offers. We know that Callaway owns
Mm-hmm.
Topgolf. So
Which not a lot of people know, by the way. Callaway invested a ton of money in Topgolf. I think it was last year or the year before. But when they signed Rom,
also,
Rom
like
was a huge ambassador of them.
Callaway's financial performance was
Yeah.
dreadful. Callaway had a turnover of 2.5 billion, had a profit of 98 million. A profit of 98 million, 98 million on a 2.5 billion turnover is an accounting error for profit
Right.
or loss. Like if your cost of shipping goes up by 10%, that profit's wiped out, right? It's that tight on those margins. So I'm not saying that the PIF are going to buy X, Y, and Z and outlet, but what I'm going to say is, if people don't understand that this is just simply a bigger situation than, hey, Rory, and do you want 850 million come over, would I be surprised if PIF bought Callaway and they turned all the top golfs into like a live golf thing where you could play against live
Yeah.
golfers on the simulator? Not at all. Would that surprise me? No. They want global golf. They want kids playing it. Would I be surprised if Rory, Rahm, Cam Smith, name 7, 8 other players got a percent of that? No, I wouldn't. Do I know that's happening? No. But do I know conversations are taking place around all of these different things?
Yeah.
Yes, we do, because it's international business. And I think what happens is people get bogged down in very basic understanding of how things work. Go, well, why would he sign? How's he going to get out of his deal? Well, it's really simple. If he wants to get out of his deal with TGL, there's two things that can happen. Buy himself out the deal. That's always an option in virtually every single contract, or have the ability to walk away and just discharge
Yeah.
his shares. He can make that depending on how it's worded, he might be able to do that. Or the conversation goes with Tiger, do you really want me to
Yeah.
walk away, or should we try and bring
Yeah.
this together? And I happen to believe Tiger's not got an issue with PIF. You don't spend 2.5 days in the Bahamas with someone chatting about golf and business if you don't think something's going to happen. You walk away after the
Yeah.
first day. How many business meetings have you had, or any meeting with anyone that's lasted 2.5 days where
Right.
you're not interested?
No, I agree. I think his issue is with Greg, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that with Tiger's issue.
I think Tiger and Greg have issues. I think Greg has been amazing for Live Golf. I don't think there is anyone else in the world that could have led Live Golf in the way it led it. And I've said that Greg was like a father to everyone. He put his arms around them, and he wore all the
Yeah.
bullets. He wore all the slings and arrows, as did Phil,
Yeah,
to be
that's
fair.
true.
So Phil and Greg wore the bullets. They took all the attacks. They took all the beatings for everybody else to protect him. And I think that's a large part of it. I think Tiger would struggle for Greg to be the leader of whatever the global tour becomes. But, and I said this last night, and I will do this on our podcast so you can have it as well. I think, would I be surprised, based on different conversations and different people, if we ended up having, and again, there's someone's going to clip this if I get it wrong by a
That's
tournament or
today's
something. I
day and
don't
age,
care.
though.
Yeah, would I be surprised if we ended up with a PGA Tour that has 5 signature events and 30 regular events, and we have a Live Tour which has 4 singles events that has OWGR points, and 8 team events where you get a couple of OWGR points if you're in the winning team, in the second team, whatever it might be. And there is a global tour that sits above it, which has got 6 events around the world, 1 in each continent, and the second one in America, where Tiger leads that. I wouldn't be surprised at all. So Greg leads Live. Greg is leading Live, and he gets to stay there. Jay Monahan carries on butchering
Yeah.
the PGA Tour,
I went on talked about that last
but
night.
Tiger gets to be the face of the global tour. Would that surprise me? Not
Yeah.
at all.
And I think, and this is just purely my opinion, purely speculation. I think Rory is sick of the nonsense. I think he's sick of the drama. I think he's sick of he took it, right. I don't know if you watched the full swing, but I know he talked about it, that he just took it on the shins from everyone. Jay was nowhere to be found. And I think part of the reason he's doing this is because he knows Rahm was a huge domino, but Rory, I think, just from a name perspective, because he was so adamant against the PGA Tour that if he went to Live, that would be the breaking point where the PGA Tour would have to agree to whatever Live wanted to do. They would have to merge because the PGA Tour simply could not survive that domino. They couldn't survive Rory, and I think he knows that, and I think he's using that to his advantage where he can maybe, and like I said, this is purely my opinion, he can take the money, but also reunite golf and give everyone what we want, which is that we want the best players in the world playing together. We saw it this weekend. Everyone loved seeing all the guys back together. And I went on it last night and I talked about it. The OWGR, if you're still buying into that, like I said, and I'm not, I don't, I know you really like Bryson. I'm indifferent. I like him. I don't like, he doesn't really matter to me, but no one firmly believes that he's the 200 and whatever ranked golfer in the world, or DJ, right? I mean, no one actually believes that. Like, no, like if you're telling me if I can take Wyndham Clark or Bryson, I mean, it's Bryson, right? I mean, and so I think Rory maybe, and like I said, I think maybe he just wants to bring everyone, and I think this would be the one that brings everything back together.
Yeah, and to go back on that back together, and what do I believe that global tour would look like? I believe you'd probably have a 70-person, 68, 72, whatever's divisible by the right amount of players for that event. You'd maybe have 35 coming from PGA Tour, 20 to 25 coming from Live, 5 to 7 coming from the DP World Tour, and 2 to 3 coming from the Asian Tour, plus 3 special invites, and that would be your series for
Yeah.
6 events. So you get the best players in the world together for 4 majors and 6 global
Yeah.
tour events. The global tour events get OWGR points to start. If they're going to stick with OWGR, which I think they're going to, because the majors will
Yeah.
not move off it. They're not going to move off it. They're never going to move off it. So you can go OWGR points for those 6 events. As I said, there's four live single events getting OWGR points in that, and they've got to give live a little bit of concession if live, because PIF will be funding this. It's going to be on Yazir's terms and Tiger's terms, and if Tiger's going to be given 50 million a year to front this global league,
Right.
why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? He doesn't have to work with Greg. He just has to take
Right.
Greg's players. He doesn't have to work with Jay. He's just got to take Jay's players. And Tiger fronts that. SSG get ownership stake in it, so they're very happy with what's gone on there. Look, the exact semantics of it can be worked out, but it feels that there's lots of talk going on in the minute, but that suggestion for me doesn't feel wildly inaccurate.
No, for sure. And I'm curious to see where we're going to be a year from now. A year from, I don't know what the exact day that Masters falls on next year, but, a year, not literally, but what it's going to look like a year from now.
We'll know before then. We'll know before then. I think we will know. I think we will know before
Really?
the US Open.
Okay, so it's going to move quickly then. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I like I said, you're much more plugged in than I from that perspective.
Well, you just think, right, from the announcement that Liv was going to happen, where Rory famously said,
Right.
"Who's left? Who's left?"
Right.
But from that interview to when they started was 8 weeks. When they did that first event
Yeah.
in London, and they put on a full tournament, TV towers, TV crews, films, everything, merchandise, the lot. Was it as good as it is now? Of course it wasn't. But PIF, they just moved quickly.
Yeah.
They just got the money and the right people to
interesting.
get things done. And if everyone's motivated, then everyone's motivated. And the motivation from PIF is they want their players to get
Yeah.
OWGR points.
No, I agree.
The fact, like, people talk a lot, right, about Gooch missing out, and about Burmeister missing out, and about Louis Oosthuizen missing out. And I believe all 3 should have been there. The best player for me in the world under 25 is, in my opinion, is David Puig.
Yeah.
And a minute. He's as good, and for me, he's as good as Oberg. Now, I
Right.
don't see him play against each other. And a lot of people think, oh, that's over the top. Maybe Oberg's just separated this week. Maybe he's separated this week, put Oberg at 1, Puig at 2. But to not have Puig, and who's won twice on the international series, had some great finishes on Liv, to not have him there is frankly, to me, did he win in Macau as well? I can't remember. But to not have him there is nuts, and we've got to start
I
getting
agree.
these players
How old
there.
is Neiman? Is he under 25? Because I love him. I loved him when he was on the PGA Tour. I love him that he's finally getting the recognition he deserves on Live.
I thought Wacko. I thought Wacko was.
He came out so young.
26. He is 25. So like, yeah, Neiman's the best player in the world under 25, but he's
Right,
he's not
there you
under
go.
25. Is he? That's the thing. He's 25. That's my get out. But you look at players like that and just think, you look down that Liv roster and go, who should have been there? I think Abraham Answer should have been there. Dean Burmeister should have been there. You could argue Paul Casey should have been there. Gooch should have been there. Herbert maybe misses out. Maronk, God, he laid an egg, didn't he? I love Adrian Maronk, but
Sorry,
he had
DJ
an
did too.
absolute.
DJ played horrible. That was unexpected.
Louis Oosthuizen, Mito Pereira has been a good player for many years, just dropped outside. David Puig is so good. Like a lot of these people I'm naming, I've spent time with, I've chatted with, I've spent time on a range with many of these people.
Did you?
They're just superb. I tell you, also like Caleb Surratt.
Unreal.
That kid is an absolute
People haven't
stud.
noticed how well he's played on Live and how hard it is to come out of college and just go right into a professional career. You know, he's 19, right? He came out of Tennessee. I mean, I don't remember the exact school, but he's got some game, and
Yeah,
He's been
he's evolved.
contributing
He's
a
evolved.
lot. I know I think it was Live Mayakoba where he made like an eight and then birdied like five of his last seven, which is unreal. Like how hard that is at 19. Like I know at 19 years old, if I made an eight, I was snapping eight clubs. I'm not birdieing five of the next seven holes.
I played in the pro-am with him at Jeddah, where just in case anyone wasn't sure, I did win the longest drive. I like to mention the fact I won the longest drive. I've mentioned it quite a lot,
Yeah,
but hey, your listeners might not know. So there we go. I played in the pro-am, and he played the front nine in Jeddah in five
and that's a
under.
big boy golf course.
It's just, mate, his ball striking is
Yeah,
unbelievable.
the sound it makes, I bet it's
Just,
just you don't hear it. You don't hear it unless you're on a range like of guys who just mash the center of the club face. It's insane.
I'll tag you. I'll tag you. I'll repost it on Instagram. Like, I mean, obviously
Yeah,
I'm inside the ropes and just like right next to the players, and I'll tag you on Instagram, and
I
you
will.
share it with your people. But it's me literally, like five five
That's
feet,
awesome.
like
Yeah.
5 feet behind him. As you can see on there, like 5 feet behind him playing, and like
It,
it's just
and the
he's
phone probably
just
doesn't do it
so
justice.
good. No, it's technology's great these days, but like it's just.
Yeah.
I'll tag you in that. Obviously, your viewers have just seen that now, but I'll tag you in as well. It's yeah. Look, am I again? People will watch this and go, "Oh, Ben's saying that all these players should have been the Masters." Well, the line I hate. They
Yeah.
knew what risks they were taking. Okay, let's deal with that line for a second. Yeah, they did, but why
Right.
should I, as a
And I
fan,
think
miss
we're
out?
so far past that point too of like that
Let's
was like
say
maybe the first year people could say that, but now it's like we've seen that the yeah, but
no,
that's the problem
they're
is
still
people think
saying
they
it.
can
They're
say whatever
still
they
saying
want
it.
and they're allowed to have their opinion, but I'm not going to say the saying everyone has one and it all stink and they all stink. Everyone has their own opinion, but I think it's a little ridiculous at this point.
Well, look, well, we covered an awful lot. I'm happy to answer any questions you got.
In the UK that not many people know about.
My course is incredible. Manor House at Castle Combe, like very few people know about it. It's one of the best courses in the country. It's unbelievable. It's got two big drop holes. It's got like a 70-foot drop par
Yeah.
four, which is 285, plays about 230, and it's got a par three 17th, which measures 180, but plays
That's awesome.
effective 105. Yeah. Little Aston, it's highly ranked, but it's almost still not well enough known. One of the greatest inland courses you could ever play. And the reason I don't say a
Yeah.
place like Sunningdale, which is one of my favourite courses, because that is known. Best course I've ever played is Turnberry. It's
Criminal
just
to out of the rotation.
unbelievable. Closely followed by Castle Stewart. Jeddah's the best kept course I've ever played. Royal Greens at Jeddah. I don't know why I call
Yeah.
it Jeddah. It's like 60 kilometres away. It's like 45 miles. That's the best kept course I've ever played. Like their range is better than nearly every
Yeah.
fringe at any course I've ever been to.
All right, last one. I try to feature a little bit of gambling into the show. I know you. I don't know if you're a big gambler, but I'm not going to ask you to gamble. But let
Not a big gamble. I love
let
gambling. I'm not a risk
let
taker. I love gambling, but
let's
yeah, I don't
hear
stake massive
pick
money.
for the next live event. Who do you think's going to win?
It's in Australia. Cam will come out fine. I was actually thinking about this the other day, and I was thinking one of the biggest things that I'm not sure about is what will happen with Masters hangover fatigue, because
Yeah.
that is a real thing. Like someone that we need to pay attention to, who has been playing well the whole time, is Paul Casey. Paul Casey has been absolutely brilliant. He's currently 8th in the rankings on Live. Who above him? Bryson, DJ, Anser, Garcia, Burmeister. So only Dean and Anser didn't go to the Masters. So look, Paul Casey could be one. Gooch could be another. But the player I'm happiest to see back playing
Yep, I love him.
well is Matt Wolff. Mate, what a guy. What a lovely
I
bloke
know.
as well.
Last one. I'm a fellow sub 70 guy. I noticed your hat. Just talk to me a minute about why you love their product so much and what differentiates them from other clubs you've played.
Look, Sub 70 is a really weird story because many people think Sub 70 is an American brand, but it isn't. It was originally from the UK, the brand, so to
Yeah.
speak, as in like the trademark. But obviously, you got Jason's got the brand over in the US, and a guy called Rich has got it over here.
Hmm.
Rich also owns 11 Golf,
I
which is
have.
the
I've seen
hybrid
them on your
brand. Have you
page.
seen them? Yeah, so have a look at 11 Golf if you haven't. It's mental. Like you can hit a 9 hybrid. Like I played with guys who have like 9s through 3
Yeah.
hybrid. They don't have any irons at all. So Rich has got both brands over here, and obviously Jason's doing an
Yeah.
incredible job with Sub 70 in America. I think what it was is that I I've been a ping guy my entire life. Well, my entire
Yeah.
life. I've had a few bits and other bobs, but
Yep.
Paul Wood, who's been on our podcast, is the VP of ping, and I played ping forever, and I still play a ping driver. I love my ping driver. But I'm from Hereford, which is where Sub
Yeah.
70 is actually based in the UK. And I got to know the guys, started playing their gear, and I can't excuse me, I can't tell any difference if you close your eyes. It's hard to
Yeah.
hit a ball
No,
with your eyes closed, but you know what I mean.
blind test. Yeah.
If you don't look at the bottom of the club, if you don't look at the bottom of the club, you cannot tell me if you're in a ping, a Titleist, a
Right.
TaylorMade, or a Sub 70. And you are able to get a set of fully fit, customized Sub 70 irons for
Yeah. It's the same
650
here.
quid. And if you want to add a 4 iron, maybe 700 quid. So
Yeah.
you guys are looking at $800
Which is about
for a
half
full
off,
set.
or 40% cheaper than what we charge here for any name brand.
Oh,
Yeah.
maybe 60% cheaper. Like if I went to get the top end ping or top end Titleist TS
Hmm.
1S or 100S, whatever it is nowadays, or the ping 210s, you've got to be looking at spending maybe
Yeah.
1600 to 1800
Yeah.
quid.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate the time. Just by wrapping up, guys, want to follow Golf Lover UK on Instagram, Golf Lovers United on YouTube. Make sure you go check out their stuff. They do a great podcast. Even though I may not agree with everything, I still think it's a good listen. Make sure you subscribe to their channel. Ben, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it. This was a great chat. Hopefully, we can do it again soon. If you're ever in the States, we'd love to play
No
golf
worries,
with you,
mate.
man. Appreciate it.
Mate, well, I'm going to be down in Florida in October. I know Jay and I are talking about trying to get maybe a few rounds together, a few different people. So we're going to let people know what we're doing. But yeah, we'll do that. But look, we don't always have to agree,
Right.
but we don't ever have to call each other names. And that's the thing. Like, we don't have to agree. We're never going to agree on everything. Like, I'm a Cowboys fan. People won't agree.
Yeah.
People won't agree with me on much, right? So I'm a Cowboys fan who also likes to live. I've alienated a
Yeah.
lot of
No,
your
I
listeners
agree. I
immediately.
agree, man. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate the time.